Good evening. I'm Lisa Wright Jenkins, President and CEO of the Council on Aging, Southern California. And I'm delighted that viewers from around the nation have joined us tonight for a very special event, an evening with Ari Seth Cohen. We've got a fun and entertaining night in store for you. We're recording this program and you'll be able to enjoy it again for the next 14 days. We'll send you a link tomorrow with details on how to access the recorded version. For those of you who might not be familiar with the Council on Aging, we're a nonprofit organization based in Orange County, California, in the city of Irvine, and our service area spans 5 counties. We're celebrating our 49th year of serving older adults, their families, and caregivers. We have an incredible team of 84 staff members and over 400 dedicated volunteers, and many of them are older adults also. We have an array of programs and services to help seniors remain healthy, connected, and protected. Most of our programs and services are free to the community. Recently, we added a new program called Concierge Care Navigators. It's an affordable solution to help families care for aging parents or loved ones. I'm proud to say we serve over 100,000 seniors annually. And I have to tell you, the pandemic isn't stopping us. We've been operating virtually for the past 2 years, and our team members are beginning to return to our offices. We rely on community support to bring programs like this to you. Tonight, I'd like to thank Dignity Memorial, who's been celebrating lives for over 100 years in Orange and San Diego counties. I'd also like to thank our friends at the City of Hope and friends at OC Elder Law. About 9 years ago, we embarked upon creating a juried photography show called Aging is Art. Our focus was to bring attention to the beauty and the dignity and joy in aging. You know, aging impacts us all from the moment that we're born. We felt it was time to recognize the positive aspects of aging versus all the anti-aging potions, lotions, and procedures that are on the market today. Through Aging as Art, we want older adults to be seen from different vantage points so they can be acknowledged and supported for all they contribute to our communities and our world. The good news is we're making great progress in this area. Aging as Art has grown into an international juried photography show with breathtaking photographs of older adults from all over the world. It's generated a lot of interest and conversation. And that's how I became aware of Ari Seth Cohen. One of my colleagues shared his book, Advanced Style, that was full of captivating fashion photography of older people. It was so unique and just fantastic. I love that he called these folks advanced instead of seniors. Best of all, the people in his photographs are living works of art. I subsequently bought all of Ari's books, and I was anxious to learn how he captures the vibrant images of his magnificent models on the streets of the world. Ultimately, we asked him to be our speaker tonight and become a guest juror for Aging as Art 2022. And to our delight, he agreed, as long as he could introduce us to 3 of his muses who inspire him every day. Let's take a peek at his work and his models.
Ensemble line.
Able, full of ableness and Seth, and on our own head alone.
Up late at night all alone, can't you see I'm trying?
Lately, I've been so hungry for color.
I love leopard.
Dyed to match cashmere sweaters and skirts.
Rodarte is my current favorite.
Versace, of course.
I like wearing men's clothes. But what makes it less masculine, I wear like this wonderful brooch.
I like surrealism. I like eyeballs and lips.
I love fashion, so I love designing my own things.
Lots and lots and lots of bracelets, lots and lots and lots of rings.
And the giant, Joan Crawford shoulders, the Claude Montana, Terry Mugler.
Japanese kimono. It's actually a little girl's kimono.
I think it's fun to dress up. It's an exercise in creativity, and it makes you feel better. Sometimes you're in a funk and you put something on and twirl yourself around and bingo.
I am dressed up for the theater of my life every day. I get such a kick out of it.
I like to feel better dressed than other people.
You get treated nicer if you're well dressed. I don't want to go around like a dreary old lady.
I don't dress for anybody else, I dress for myself. If somebody doesn't like what I'm wearing, I don't give a shit.
This is what I am, this is what you get.
I have my own ideas what I like and what I think is chic. I dress according to my mood. I have to have freedom. When I move, I move.
Style is inborn, like an artist is inborn.
Look, this is Marilyn Monroe, but I think what I'm seeing here is Andy Warhol.
Exactly.
And I'm seeing anti-fashion in fashion.
You don't want to look crazy. The object is to look as chic as you can, but your average person in the street would never wear this.
Too many people are so afraid and they just want to do what everybody else does and look like everybody else.
Everybody wants to look like everybody else on the one hand, and on the other hand, everybody thinks they are such individuals.
I'd go in the store, Bergdorf or Saks, and they would pick up a dress and everybody's wearing this. Put it down, don't show it to me.
Yeah, you can break the rules once in a while. I'm not ready for a convent or anything, so I can wear leopard glasses.
I think a lot of women, especially in New York, really care about dressing. Definitely in magazines, it's only the young women who are, looking great and whatever, and they don't show older women. I get a lot of feedback from women. Wow, thank you. You're giving me permission to go dig into my closet and start dressing again. I miss it.
I never used to tell my age to my students. Always ask me, how old are you? And I used to say I'm between 50 and death. But now I'm very proud because it took a long time to get there. I've just become 90 years old.
Up till 80, you always lie. And after 80, you usually brag.
Anybody who's in advanced style has the same feeling I have. As we get older, we get better.
Some people let themselves go. They say, oh, I'm old now. But my mind is not old. I think young.
There is no substitute for life experience.
Young women, you're going to be an old woman someday. Don't worry about it. Don't sweat it. Don't worry about getting older. Every era, it builds character.
Well, I have to say the video sets the tone for the conversation we're about to start. So tonight, Ari Seth Cohen is joined by his muses, Deborah Rapoport, Arlinda McIntosh, and Judith Boyd, who will captivate you tonight. And as you watch our program, give a thought to a question you'd like to ask Ari or one of his muses, and type it in the Q&A box just down below at the bottom of your screen. And please include the city that you live in. And we'll have a 10-minute Q&A session at the end of the program, and we hope to be able to ask Ari or one of his muses your question. So welcome, Ari and Judith, Arlinda and Deborah. We're delighted you've joined us here tonight. So Ari, my first question to kick things off is going to be for you, and it's a fun one. Have you always been interested in older women?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having us all, and thanks for everyone who's here joining us on a Thursday night and for the important work that you do at the Council of Aging. But yes, first of all, I'm wearing these glasses because I never look straight at the Zoom, so excuse me for that. And I just turned 40, so I should be able to wear what I want, right? Yes, my love of older women started with my grandmother, Bluma, and I grew up in San Diego, California, and she was a librarian and the first person who introduced me to style and creativity, and she really encouraged me to kind of go through her things in her closet and encouraged me to express my creativity. And so I felt very safe in that environment, and we just had so much fun together. And we used to look through her old photo albums and go to the library and check out stacks of books. So my frames of reference for style were kind of based on these images that she had of the 1930s and 1940s glamour. Even though she didn't have a lot of money, women in those days really dressed. They wore hats and, things that were really unique. And so this is kind of like something that was always in my head, and I always had a love of clothing. And I went away to college and studied art history in Seattle, and then my grandmother fell ill, so I had to move back to California and live between Seattle and California, and I became a caretaker for my grandmother. And she used to tell me as a kid, she studied in New York City at Barnard College, and used to tell me, if you want to be creative, you have to move to New York. And so when she passed away in 2008, it was this huge sense of loss and confusion, and I didn't know what I had no idea, what should I do now? And my my grandmother's words, move to New York City, were going through my head. And so I decided I was going to pack everything up and move to the city. I'd saved up some money, but I had no idea what I was going to do. Maybe work in fashion, you know, I had no idea, but I knew that my grandmother would send me on my way. And right before I moved to New York, I saw a film called Hats Off, starring this incredible woman named Mimi Waddell. And she was in her 90s and wearing these incredible hats. One of her lines was, "There's nothing romantic left in life but a hat." And I think all the ladies here can agree with me. And I went up to her. She came to the screening in San Diego, and she lived in New York City. And I said, "I want to be your friend. I'm moving to New York City next month." And she gave me a business card and said, "Here, call me." And moved to New York, started interning at different companies and, you know, trying to make my way. And I decided to call Mimi, and she didn't answer the phone. Eventually, I started working for a designer in the office named Abigail Lorick, and I was showing her, you know, photos of Mimi and kind of telling her that I had this idea to start photographing women on the streets of New York City. And she said that she wanted to put Mimi in her fashion show. So I called Mimi one last time and I said, "Mimi, I have a job for you." "Hey, Ari, hello. You have a job for me?" And she, you know, she was in her 90s at this point, and we became fast friends, and she really became my first muse after my grandmother. And 2008, a lot of my friends were just turning 30 or like entering their late 20s and already fearing aging. And I was seeing all these incredible women on the streets of New York City and wondered why they weren't the people we were paying attention to in terms of inspiration, not only wisdom, fashion, you know, inspiration. I saw young girls dressing like older women, but these women weren't being celebrated. And so I started to photograph and interview older people on the streets of New York City, and then eventually started a blog. And really the project was a way for me to heal from a deep sense of loss. And then it kind of grew into this global movement that sort of re-envisions what aging looks like. And I was able to make 3 books, a documentary film. The film you just saw was part of that. And Deborah's holding up a different book that I made. But, you know, it really has created a movement in the fashion industry and sort of overall in advertising where older women are now being shown a lot more. Still so much work to do and so much ageism to fight. But yeah, so my grandmother gave me this great gift and I've made wonderful friends, and that's my story. And I would love to introduce the ladies if you don't mind.
Sure.
So we have Deborah Rapoport, an artist. She makes hats. She works with recycled materials and just a wonderful friend. Arlinda McIntosh, who's a fashion designer, poet, model. Judith Boyd, who has a blog called The Style Crone, which is a huge influence on me. She gave me this hat. And she's a retired psychiatric nurse and enjoys blogging about aging and style. And I was just gonna ask all you ladies, who are you wearing? Arlinda?
Well, I'm wearing Sophistafunk vintage and something thrifted in the pedal and what do you call it? I had a bouquet of roses, so I had them dried hanging on the wall. So I decided to just take them down today and let them grace the screen tonight.
And Sophistafunk is your own fashion label.
And my label is Sophistafunk, the Skirt Co. SOFISTAFUNK, the Skirt Co.
Can you show us a little bit of what you're wearing?
Of course I can.
A fashion runway moment.
Well.
Ooh. And Deborah, what about you?
Well, whatever I have on is either vintage or thrift shop. My hat is made from industrial felt, one that I made a while ago, embellished with old twisted tape. I love to sit and twist any kind of old masking tape or tape where the stickum is being lost. And the necklace, I love statement jewelry. It's just made from lids from like yogurt containers wrapped in brown paper and a little bit of light blue. That's what I'm wearing. Oh, and the earrings are also made from toilet paper rolls, just like my bracelets. All the cuffs I make are from toilet paper.
The famous scrub brushes.
Oh, yeah. And the scrubby, the copper scrubby, I forgot, because I have copper in my shirts. I put copper on today. I love copper.
And Judith Louise Boyd, the style crone.
Yes, I am wearing total vintage tonight. And let me just put on my glove. Gloves are one of my favorite accessories. My hat is vintage, my dress is vintage, and behind me, I'm wearing about 300 vintage scarves, which are an installation in my guest's bedroom.
So I guess we can start with Deborah. You know, my love of style and personal expression really came from my grandmother. Do you have an early memory, or like when this love of the art of dressing, or what is the reason why you're doing this now?
Well, it was encouraged by my mother and my grandmother. It was never considered superfluous or a waste of time because it was a creative act. It wasn't about shopping and being trendy and consumption. It was really taking old clothes and fabric and dancing around the house. And one memory I have, my sister and I went to visit grandma, and we took out the button drawer of the sewing machine, dumped it on the living room floor. And grandpa said, "Oi, oi, they're making a mess." And grandma said, "Be quiet, they are being creative." And I feel that in every cell in my body. So there's nothing that wrong with making a mess. It's a creative act, an act of joy and an act of play. And that's what's the most important thing.
And Arlinda, do you have any early style memories or,
Yes.
influences?
I'm going to say that the majority of my clothing as a little girl, my mom made from my dad's hands. So far before it became a name, upcycling, that's what we were doing. So from his shirts to his thermals, I would take thermals and cut the crotch out and it would come a sweater. Or she would take his pants and cut them and make me little jumper dresses. So it's always been some sense of taking something and making something else.
Wonderful. And Judith?
I don't have any early memories of dressing up, but in the 70s, when I was working as a psych nurse, I really got into vintage, and we wore street clothes because it was in mental health and I wasn't wearing uniforms. I started wearing hats to work. I started wearing vintage 1940s outfits to work, and it made me feel better. I was talking to people that were in the most serious crisis in their life, and they enjoyed what I was wearing. It created a rapport, and made things lighter, and it made me feel lighter every day when I went to work. So that's when I started my love of dressing up, was working as a psych nurse.
That's so wonderful. And we all share that kind of, love of thrifting and repurposing. And I think we all care a lot about sustainability and the planet. And, that's, a lot of times people will think that style has to cost a lot of money, or that fashion has to cost a lot of money, or they look at the ladies that I photograph like you and think you're spending all this money, but truly you can have that style without spending a lot of money. Do you all agree with that?
I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What was that, Deborah? Did you have something to say?
Oh, no, I was just trying to see if I could get everybody on the screen. So I was just hitting participants or more. Anyway,
Well,
absolutely. Sustainability, create more, consume less.
And how do you feel? Like, I feel like you all are such muses and inspiration for me, like, to express myself, and something I always loved. Like, I'm looking at you right now and just sad that we're not in the same room together, and I would take everyone's photo. We have to redo this in person sometime. But I feel, as even turning 40, that I am feeling braver and like more myself. And that's what I've always loved about the women that I photograph, and kind of the meaning behind the work is that you can be yourself, find yourself, express yourself, no matter what age you are. And how is it that your style has changed, or maybe it hasn't, but how has it like changed, or how have your feeling about your creative expression, how has that changed as you've gotten older? And we'll start with Arlinda.
Oh, well, it's funny. I just did an interview. I was just featured in The Guardian where they asked that question about, when did we decide to, change? And I think it was in my early 50s when I decided, why am I uncomfortable with what people see? When I walk past I used to dress with oversized t-shirts. Now, someone still may have saw that as looking different, because I've always dressed different to other people, from taking my dad's burlap bags and making little skirts and dresses to taking my mom's kitchen curtains down, making skirts. It was always something. But as I grew into my maybe like 30s, I became a little bit more uncomfortable with dressing that way, because that was, people would look at me like, oh, why are you wearing that? Why are you? And I guess maybe around late 40s and 50s, it was just full on bridal gown in the street, like the trains. I love trains. I wear trains now. I love hats, and I love changing, because changing is what we do. You have to change.
Yes.
You have them, you might as well just.
Oh my God. This is.
Don't.
Oh, okay. I'm seeing it when I'm coming to New York. We're doing. This is a Judith Boyd also. Now I know.
Oh my goodness.
Is this a lampshade, Deborah?
Well, Ari, anything is a hat, whether it's a paper bag, a hat, or a lampshade.
Yes, Deborah.
So, or a vase, those kind of things are just containers. And in this case, it just contains a head. That's all. So, you find lampshades in the street all the time. It doesn't get much better. I can embellish it, but I haven't gotten there yet.
You're really
only a lampshade if it's on a lamp.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
See, that's the thing, looking at you guys is elevating me. And I know Judith talks about hats elevating us. And I'm just, you're making me joyful and happy during these really difficult times. Thank you so much. And I think that's what, style communicates, like style, brings joy to people, especially when you have fun with it and continue to have fun with it. So
I have a question. Cup here at all. Nothing.
I have a question I'd like to interject.
Sure.
So as I want to address actually, I'll address all of you, because Ari, with a hat like that, I want to know, when you walk down the street, how do people react? And I'd like to know if men and women react differently to you.
Do you want to start with? I can start. That's one thing about being a man, is I get a lot of reaction from it, and it's unwanted reaction, because I think a lot of us, and a lot of the women in advanced style, because we have this deep kind of connection in terms of expression, is we dress for ourselves. When in the morning, I love clothes, and I just want to put on something that makes me feel good, and I don't even really think about, this is strange, or this is weird, or this is avant-garde or outlandish, or, but, walking down the street, not everyone wears a pink turban, and I have to sort of be aware of that too. And, it sometimes takes me away. Like when I first started the project, I didn't dress as much because my focus was on the women. Like this was about them, and I sort of wanted to make myself invisible, but they've also allowed me to fall in love again with style. So yes, I get a lot of strange reactions. I'm sure the women get better reactions than I do.
Well, so let's hear from the women. What kind of reactions do you get? Judith, how about you?
I dress however I want to dress, wherever I am, whether I'm in Denver, whether I'm in New York. And usually, because I wear hats all the time, I do get a lot of response to my headwear. I get better seats at a restaurant when we used to go to restaurants. And I have to say that my style has evolved over the years, and next week I'm going to be 79. And if that isn't flirting with 80, I don't know what is. And so I just feel like my style will continue to evolve. I have no idea. I'll just have to wait and see.
How about you, Deborah? How do people react to you on the street?
Well, always living in New York, except for 11 years when I lived in Northern California, it's expected here. You know, people don't look at you strangely. You do get a smile, you do get a reaction like, oh my God, you look fantastic. Oh, I wish I could do what you're doing. Or, I'm going to go home and go through my wardrobe and curate my closet and start dressing up and enjoying it. So people say, well, would you dress that way if you lived in Tennessee? Well, dear God, I don't think I could ever live in Tennessee because I'm a New Yorker.
All right. Arlinda, how about you? What's the reaction that you get on the street?
I get a lot. I mean, I'm in Jersey, so it's a little different, but the people that know me know, like when I go to Whole Foods or to the mall, I generally will have on a train because I love trains. I love the excess of girly prettiness. I just love the extra. So I love big skirts. I love to hold them when I'm walking. And when I get where I'm going, I just drop it and let it fall, or I'll just watch it trail behind me. And I understand, I understand the ground's dirty, but it's okay. It's only
So I'm guessing that age appropriate dressing is not something that applies to this group.
You don't know what that means.
Yeah, I wouldn't have any idea what it means.
I have no clue.
I'm not a mother, I'm not a grandmother, so I have no idea. I'm still like 18 in my framework. So,
Even
if
as
somebody ever calls me a granny, I say, you got the wrong person, please. I'm no granny.
But you know what? I'm a great grandmother, and
yeah,
it's a word. It's something that has happened. It has nothing to do. I'm done with my children. Those are their children. I'm still going to be myself.
I totally agree. And one of the things that I'm doing is I'm teaching my 3-year-old how to wear hats in my hat room. We have to get the next generation to participate.
If we don't
have a hat room, wait a second, time out. You have a hat room? Tell us about that.
I used to have a hat shop in the 80s. I always did something about fashion and style on the side when I was working as a nurse. And so when we closed the hat shop in 1987, I just created a hat room in my house. And so I'm a collector and I have hats from all eras, all colors. And here's another one.
Ooh.
So all I have to do is walk into the hat room and decide which hat I'm going to wear today, and then put an outfit together around it.
That's wonderful.
I've heard a lot from, over the course of doing my work that as people become older, they start to feel invisible, and society is that, makes people feel invisible. And so I wanted to make my work kind of an antidote to that. And I feel like the women that I photograph are so exuberant. And I'm just curious for the ladies, like, in a way, it's like if you're expected to be invisible as you get older and you're out in the world flaunting your style, it's almost like a political statement. It's like, I'm here and I refuse to be invisible. And I just wondered what all of you thought about that.
Absolutely. I think it is a political statement to be visible and vibrant, and no matter what age we are. Right. And it's also modeling for generations younger than we are, and it's confronting ageism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not dead yet, and we are role models. And I can't tell you, I have more 25-year-old friends who want to learn from us because the wisdom and also how to repurpose. And, I say recreations are really recreation. So it's a process of like I say, mending as meditation. So it's what keeps us whole and creative. And like Ari always says, the 3 C's, when you're growing older, and it doesn't matter at any age. It's about creativity because we're closest to creation when we create, and also communication with social beings. So we have to communicate, and community. We have to stick together as a tribe and support each other in order to grow and have wisdom. And they say wisdom can't be taught, it has to be shared.
Well said. Do you think there's a freedom that comes from dressing as you all do? Is this like the proverbial fountain of youth?
Yeah, I would think so. It's color, it's texture, it's layering, it's flaunting your flavor. Come on, this is joyfulness.
Right.
If we don't do it now, when will you do it? And that's for me what, teaching the youth or the, you know, the younger people, if you don't wear what you want now, when will you wear it? No one can tell you what you should have on. No one should tell anyone anything. You know, we should all wear, I think Judith said earlier, it's a feel good. You get up, you put on what makes you feel, you put on who you are today. Right. If we listen to someone's opinion, right, it's their opinion. So if you listen to 5 people, if 4 of them tell you, oh, I don't think you should wear that because of your age, you're going to have that one person that's going to agree. Who are you dressing for, them or yourself? So I don't look at it as youthful. I don't look at it as holding on to my youth. I'm actually enjoying what happens as we age. But dressing is just definitely something that I don't think about. I just do it.
That's exactly.
I'm learning this from all of you. You know, that's the thing is I have this incredible gift that of all these teachers. It's like I struggle with that, you know, like people's judgment of me and like wanting to make myself smaller. And I really appreciate all of you for helping me be more myself. And that's a lot. What I hear from women is that when they see your photos, you know, they may not want to wear hats like we do or, you know, dress like us, but they take the attitude. And my project has always been about the spirit of the women that I photograph, and style is just one way to express that vitality and spirit. And this fashion show is just killing me, guys. It's so
I think it brings us closer to ourselves because I see it as my morning meditation. I get quiet and I say, who am I today? And it just depends on what comes up from the innards. And again, the weather and my activities, but it's not really a conscious thing like, you know, I have to wear this because this is what's in today. And I never really know how but after doing it for so many centuries, or decades, I should say, it's sort of a natural process. And I don't really care about what the outside says. And I have a mantra called the 4 T's. And the first one is your truth. And we all have our truth, but it's been buried so deeply down in us by our culture so that we can't reveal it. But if we go there, we can find it. And then the second T is trust. We have to trust it. It's too easy to criticize it and ridicule it and think it can't be. And the third T is to be tolerant and be tolerant of your process, and then wrap it all in tenderness and put it out there in the world and give everybody else the space to do their 4 T's.
Send this to me, please. Oh, that was beautiful.
Very well said. So I see, Deborah, you've put some sequins on your head. So I have and made a beautiful hat. So I have a question about this idea of evening wear and whether or not something like sequins should only be worn in the evening. So who'd like to comment on that?
Well, I know Arlinda's hot on that one.
Okay. All right.
And
Arlinda.
Ari too.
Well,
we all love sequins.
It's only evening wear if you wear it in the evening.
In the evening.
Right.
If you wear it during the day, it's day wear. It's just like, you know, the terminology streetwear. So technically this, what we do is not streetwear, but it is because we're wearing it in the street. I don't save anything for any particular time. I think I said the other day, you know, we are always taught that life is short. You hear it all the time. Life is not short for a lot of people. When you have people living to be 100 plus, life is unpredictable. And because life is unpredictable, you have to do what you can do now. Put on the big skirt, put on sequins during the day, change your hat, put on a hat, change your glasses, pretend to drink tea out of a cup in this empty cup. Make the moments. Be ready for the photos.
You know, I feel like, how have you dealt with dressing up during the last 2 years of the pandemic? Because I feel like I didn't realize how much clothing and style was really an armor for me. And a lot of the women talk about how clothing is an armor. And I realized that it was my way to go to my closet and put it on and go sit on the balcony, you know, and it wrapped me up, protected me, and, you know, lifted my spirits. And I was wondering, you know, how clothing is healing. You know, we talk about the idea that style is healing. How does style heal you, Arlinda, Judith, Deborah?
I started blogging during a very intense period of loss in my life. My husband Nelson, during the last 9 months of his life, I started to blog, and he was my first photographer. And so I feel during that period of time, all of what I adorned myself with was very healing. And continuing to blog in 2010 and into 2011, through death and grief and then reinvention, I still feel like expressing myself from within, and now really being into sustainability was all a gift that Nelson gave me when I started blogging. So yes, for me, style has been very healing.
And Arlinda, if you could just tell us quickly about, you know, how, you know, I feel like you have a story about how style and clothing healed you. You had a traumatic event in your life as well that led to, you know, this being your career, right?
So in my late 20s, I was married. My early 20s, I was married. And by my mid 20s, I was unmarried because he needed to go off and he changed his mind. So with that day, particularly, the first thought that came to mind when I saw that he wasn't there is, but I have rent that has to happen. And I didn't know at the time how I was going to pay it because I was working at a cable company. I wasn't thinking about fashion or anything. But it was one of my friends that said to me, well, why don't you make us something to wear and we'll help you get the rent. My first thought was, you want me to make something? I mean, I knew how to sew. I don't know about any other ethnicity, race, or whatever, but as a little Black girl, you're taught how to sew from the beginning. When they bring you out and they say you want to sew something. So I knew how to sew, but I never related it to fashion. So I had a few dollars. I went to the store and I bought denim. And I made these denim dresses and I sold each one of them. You know, I made 5, my 5 girlfriends, they came over. And I was just like shocked, like, wow, you guys are gonna give me money for these? Okay. So I did it one more week. I took the money that they gave me, I went back to the fabric store, bought more fabric. I came back and I made more clothing and they bought those and I asked them, well, if I do this again, will you bring people and, you know, whatever. So that was then, I didn't think that would get me here. That was like 80s, you know, and I started off, I had to give them a name. So I called them Wine and Cheese Fashion Affairs. You had to give it a name and there was no wine, but there was Welch's grape juice and Welch's white grape juice. And I bought like maybe $5 for grapes just to make it look cute, but I didn't see it. And even to maybe, honestly, it was a few years ago before it really hit me. I'm a business owner because you go through life and you do what you have to do as far as clothing, but it became fashion. When it became fashion to me, you know, it was something like, wow, you've come a long way. And I think that was maybe like 50s when I really started it hit me. Wear what you want, do what you want. Nobody can tell you what you're making these things. You might as well wear them and feel good about yourself in them.
Yeah, I mean, I just started to be able to call myself a photographer, and I've been doing this since 2008, and really just being able to like own that creativity and like be present in it, you know. Thanks for sharing. And
think about it.
Just because we have such a short time, but you know, we could be talking for days and hours, but Deborah, just share a little bit about your career so everyone gets to know you better, like if you can do it pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, I studied textiles at the East Coast and the West Coast and taught university for a little while. And then I had to come back to New York. And, but I always made wearable things. I did my dissertation on wearable things and they were in Philadelphia in 2019 at a big show called Off the Wall American Art to Wear. And I've always worked with recycled materials. I was crocheting with videotape back in the 60s. And I just always loved putting things on my body. So even when I wove, if it was rectangular, I would take it and distort it and make it more of a form for the body. So that's basically what I've been doing for the last 60 years. And, you know, I've shown in museums and galleries internationally and everything. And it really is a process of play. I don't take myself seriously. Everybody says, do a book. Well, I'm not a book person. So if somebody wants to do it, fine. I'm just going to dress up. And Ari said to me about 8 years ago, I think you need to do e-commerce. And I said, you know what, Ari, I'm not technically oriented. I think I'm just going to stick to me commerce and walk down the streets and let everybody talk to me, invite them over and do it the old fashioned way.
And that's how I met Deborah. And I have to say, since I've started this project and like Advanced Styles grown and the recognition of older women, all of these women, you know, have social media platforms and are now being approached by brands and modeling in their 60s and 70s, and Judith in her 80s, it just, you know, getting there, you know, it's interesting to see how it grows and the possibilities as you get older and these, you know, so we're probably running out of time, but I just.
Oh, it's never too late if you haven't yet met your destiny.
Yeah, what's it never too late for, Judith and Arlinda?
Yes. What is it never too late for?
Yeah.
To start roller skating again.
It's never too late to find another hat.
So we've started to get some questions coming in through the Q&A, and there's a couple similar ones one's coming from Lori Merman and one from Michelle Jordan, and they're commenting about your creativity and your attitude, and they say that you all are looking wonderful from the outside, but equally impressive is your attitude and your confidence. And so the question is this confidence something that you've always had, or is this something that's developed with wisdom and age?
I don't see it as confidence.
For me, the older I get, the more confident I feel. I was not confident at all as a young woman. And now I feel like I have become more and more experimental, more into change, more into activism. So for me, confidence grew with age and is still growing.
Okay, how about the rest of you?
I mean, if I had to give a name, I never thought about it as confidence. It's just, you just do what makes you feel good. Just do what's comfortable. If it's confidence, then it just happened, you know, but you just got to do what you want to do with your life before you don't have it.
I was painfully shy as a child, and I just had to stick to my own thing. And, you know, like everybody in the family would go out New Year's Eve and I would stay home and dress up the dog. That's what pleased me. And I have just had to stay truthful, you know, my 40s, and it's gotten me where I am, and I'm healthy along with it. I think it's too easy to go against the grain, and then illness, I think, sets in. You know, illness is dis-ease, and if you're not at ease, you're at dis-ease. So we've got to follow our truth.
Good point. Okay, so inquiring minds want to know, what do your closets look like?
I think
like anybody else. Like anybody else, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of folded stuff, seasonal changes.
Racks, thrift store racks of sequin kimonos.
Yeah, that to be a collector means that my closets are deep and my collections are wide.
Wide.
You know, talking about confidence is like, it's these women that give me confidence, because I'm still finding that, but I feel like, like Arlinda said, it's hitting me right now. It's like just being yourself, you know, being true to yourself. And I think that that's the great gift of Advanced Style for me. And the gift that it gave me is it allowed me to feel like that little boy again who loved going into their grandmother's closet and putting on her vintage jewelry and my grandpa's hats. And like, you know, if you can kind of return to that state of like your initial creativity, which I think sometimes people lose along the way. I know through trauma I did, but if you start to rebuild that as you get older and it just gets even more and more, that's what Advanced Style has done for me. And these women have given me that gift.
Oh, I have a question for you, Ari. At your latest book, which is called Advanced Love, captures the photographs of beautiful couples. And so a lot of really handsomely dressed men, cleverly dressed men in here. So tell us about the men that you have photographed, or the couples that you photographed. What have you learned from the men that are interested in fashion?
Yeah, my first book was solely women that I met on the streets of New York City and London and a few different cities. And for me, I wanted to like really make a statement about women in aging, because it's women that really are treated disproportionately negatively as they get older, by the media, by the press, by society, where I felt like sometimes men are celebrated. You know, maybe they don't feel that confidence inside, and we all deal with ageism and aging, but I think definitely there's, you know, a difference. And so, but everyone was like, what about the men? What about the men? And my grandmother was my inspiration, but I am inspired by anyone who expresses themselves. And so you know, if I see a great expressive man on the street who's over 60, of course I'll take their photo. And yeah, so I have my own icons of style, and, you know, try to sort of take in what they do. And I think it takes a certain kind of bravery to, you know, express yourself in the world as a gentleman. And so that, you know, a lot of these guys are definitely my role models. And so yes, I did put them in my second book, and they're in the couples book. So Advanced Style is for all ages, all genders, you know, all sizes, everyone.
Wonderful, wonderful. So what advice, Ari, do you have for amateur photographers who are interested in doing what you do?
Well, for me, I took a different path with photography, because I didn't study photography until I moved to New York City, and knew that I had to, once I started this project, I was like, I need to really represent these people that I'm finding on the street in a certain way. And so I was initially, my roommate gave me his little Nikon, and I just was taking these little street snaps and like run around the streets of New York and working. And but eventually I knew that I had to sharpen my skills. And I think that I got very lucky, because I was able to do something that I was very passionate about, and that was very true to myself and authentic. And so I would say, like, kind of really think about what it is that you love, and what it is that you've always loved, and what inspires you, and what, you know, and like kind of return to that. And you know, you don't have to follow the trends of photography. Like, it's like capturing your unique world. I think, you know, with social media and all these things, like, people want to see an insight into different worlds. And so it's about keeping your eye open, and, you know, to things that you might not necessarily like these beautiful women, you know, it's like, look for the invisible, look for something that really makes your heart beat.
So follow your passion, essentially, right? Follow your passion. So you're passionate about older women and style, and you really have captured a very unique market. And I think it gives us all an opportunity to pause and reflect on how we can think about older adults differently, how we can appreciate what they bring, you know, to our lives and to the community. And gosh, you guys do it all with a lot of color, and it's just absolutely, you know, fantastic. So I want to ask all of you, when you think about the photographs that have been taken of you, what do you think makes a great photograph?
Being genuine, just who you are. Just being. I started filming. In my company, there was a point where, especially during COVID, there was no one to shoot in my clothes. So I had to start doing it myself, because I have to sell them, and I couldn't just hang them on a hanger. So I became I was already visible, but I became a lot more comfortable with seeing myself, not as a model, but as Arlinda, putting these clothes on, taking a photo so I can show the people that I want to purchase them. So I think, like, even with our clothing, it's not, for us, this is who we are. It's not what we wear. You know, at least for me, it's who I am. I don't know, I'm not gonna say I don't know how, because I love a pair of sweatpants, but even with sweatpants on, I'm gonna have on pretty much the same thing that I have on now with that sweat. So it's just all fabric. For everyone that's listening, wear what you want. It's all only fabric. Just do what you want with it.
I think it's about
Judith, what makes a good photo for you? You actually do a lot of videos on your Instagram page, so those are fantastic too.
As Arlinda just stated, during the pandemic, I had to learn how to take my own photos or I would have disappeared from social media. And,
oh no.
I know. And for me, I think some kind of just expression that comes from within and movement of some kind, feeling free and getting the shot of that freedom.
Wonderful, wonderful. Ari, what do you think makes a great photograph?
Well, for me, what I attempt to do is bring out the spirit of my muses and my subjects, you know. And one time a very famous photographer was looking through my book and he was like, "You're never going to go anywhere because all the women in this book are smiling," which wasn't true. Not every single woman was smiling. And I understand the idea of looking serious and how that's part of, you know, fashion and art photography. But what I was doing was I wasn't going on the street and telling people to smile. The act of approaching someone who may not used to be being approached to take a photo creates that joy, and that's what I captured. And I wanted to show some kind of a positive and inspiring view of aging. And so I think that it's about capturing, for me, spirit and the essence of what I see, but that's what I see in a certain woman. And each photographer, you know, like if you took a photographer and had Arlinda, Deborah, Judith lined up outside on the street, they're going to all take that photo differently. One is going to want to make that photo look over the top with these women. Someone is going to maybe concentrate on the elegance of it. Another one is maybe going to concentrate on expression. You know, there's so many, it's about your own unique view of the world. And so, I mean, there's so many great photos and so many, it's about telling stories.
Well, we certainly, through our work with Aging is Art, we found that the stories behind the photograph are what are so meaningful. And so I've been so impressed by what you've all shared with us tonight about your personal style and just the advice and wisdom that you've shared with others about thinking about how they can look at dressing and fashion and life differently. It's been wonderful. So I wanted to just say that you have just really inspired us, Ari, certainly by your work and your muses here and your passion for advanced style, regardless of one's age. And I just want to thank you so much for your fantastic presentation here this evening. You really exceeded our expectations and you've left us with some wonderful words of wisdom.
Thank
so
you.
Before we close the evening,
I wanted to wish everyone in the world peace and kindness. We're thinking about everyone suffering right now. So
thank you. Thank you. That's a very important message, particularly in these times. Thank you for mentioning that, Ari. Before we close the evening, I'd like to invite our audience to learn more about our Aging is Art Juried Photography Show, which is just opening today for submissions for 2022. It starts today. And so if the photographs in Aging is Art are juried by a distinguished panel of skilled professional and amateur photographers who are shown here. I'm so grateful for their expertise and also their guidance. They've enabled us to bring this to the world. So I'm grateful for Michelle Carden, Jacques Garnier, Laurel Hungerford, Lori Merman, and Barbara White. And this year, they'll be joined by Ari Seth Cohen as our guest juror. The entire collection of the 2022 winning photographs will be on display at the Bowers Museum this fall before moving to the Newport Beach Library in the late winter. Aging is Art showcases the beauty in aging. And in an era where the media focuses on youth and slowing or stopping the aging process, our photographers capture the beauty in crinkly skin, age spots, gray hair, crow's feet, and skin that jiggles. So we welcome all that aging brings, including the effects of gravity, and every wrinkle and every jiggle are welcome here. So as you've seen tonight, great photographs capture a story. A photograph can alter perceptions, can transport us to other places, and at best get the viewer to care. At the Council on Aging, we see the wonders of aging every day. And we also see that aging is something that should not be dreaded or denied, but it's an important part of life that should be embraced. It's about adapting as we age. It's about living longer and thriving. It's about engagement and enrichment and joy. And it's certainly best enjoyed by planning for aging, much like we plan for so much else in our lives. But how much time, we talk about this a lot with folks that we talk to in the community, how much time have you spent planning for your own aging? I bet it's less time than you spent planning for your last vacation. So take a few moments and take some time to think about how your plan for aging, what it's going to be, and how to make it the experience that you've captured in many of these photographs and that you've heard from these women today, and men also. Can't forget you, Ari. And by all means, break out your camera. Here's Deborah Rapoport right here in a beautiful photograph that was submitted a few years ago for Aging is Art. And we'd love to see your photographs in Aging is Art. And so we have a wonderful prize package for both amateur and professional photographers. You can see it here on the screen tonight. So I'd like to thank you all for joining us tonight. We're so grateful to Ari Seth Cohen and his beautiful muses. And thank you so much, ladies, for all of your feedback and advice and words of wisdom. I hope tonight's presentation has got you, everyone here in the audience, reflecting on your own personal style. I have to tell you, I'm certainly going to take a fresh look at the clothes and accessories in my closet based on what I've learned here tonight from this lovely group. If you ordered a book as part of your ticket package tonight, this one, Advanced Style, Older and Wiser, it's going to be mailed to you in 2 to 3 weeks and will be signed by Ari and personalized. If you'd like to order a personalized copy of this book or give it as a lovely gift, just give us a call. We'll be happy to help you with that. And so in closing, wherever you are tonight, take a moment, visit our website and learn more about Aging is Art. Please sign up for our newsletter, and we welcome you to follow Aging is Art on Instagram and certainly any of these wonderful panelists that have been here with us tonight. So thank you all for joining us, our panelists, and thank you to the audience. And thank you so much, and good night. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Wonderful.